Hello there, you're listening to the Box Office Show. I'm Ryan Hill.
And I'm Dylan Johnson. Today we're going to be talking about the box office numbers from last weekend and our box office predictions for this upcoming weekend.
We'll also be doing a director analysis on Francis Ford Coppola in honor of his upcoming film Megalopolis. This will be part of an ongoing series that we're going to have this month, the month of Coppola. And in this episode, we will be analyzing his films before The Godfather. Where we have to report the passing of a film legend. James Earl Jones has passed away at age 93. This is devastating. This is so sad. One of the most iconic voices of all time.
Tremendous
undoubtedly
actor.
A great actor in his live action work as well.
The
but
Sandlot.
Obviously, most remembered so Sandlot, Field of Dreams.
Yeah.
Baseball films apparently was his go-to.
Yeah. Legendary in the theater as well.
Of course, yeah. Fences, which obviously had that film adaptation with Denzel and Viola Davis. But yeah, on the stage, that was him.
Who played his son on the stage? I forget. God, I've seen the clips. Sure. That's too bad. I can't remember.
Couldn't tell you.
It's also another wonderful actor. But yeah, he was a tremendous powerhouse.
Absolutely. Of course, giving voice to probably the most iconic movie character of all time, Darth Vader, and then also giving voice to Mufasa. So this man, a key part of my my childhood and two of my favorite films ever. So he will be sorely missed, but he lived a great long life. I mean, 93. That's incredible.
Yeah, that's solid. He will be missed indeed. And we can talk about the Emmys of 2024, which had their pre-ceremony awards. The actual ceremony is coming up soon, but they had their awards building up to it, a lot of the technical awards and a lot of the smaller awards, because the Emmys have so many awards that they can't do it all in one night like the Oscars. So they have to break it up, kind of like the Grammys. I think the Grammys is the same thing because they also have so many awards to give out. But for the pre-ceremony awards, we have something crazy to announce. FX and Hulu killing it out there. They're going to kill it again at the actual Emmys when they happen. Shogun has won 14 awards at the pre-ceremony awards alone, and The Bear has won 7, with Jamie Lee Curtis winning for Guest Actress and Jon Bernthal winning for Guest Actor in a comedy series, both. Insane.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to clean up as it always does. But yeah, Shogun now joining the mix with its first Oscar ceremony, and yeah, already breaking records. Beat Game of Thrones with its previous record of like 12 wins in one night. So yeah, that's monumental. So they're going to be dominant, FX, in both the drama and comedy categories. Another milestone that was hit at the pre-ceremony awards, Justin Paul and Benj Pasek achieved EGOT status. So they are songwriters, and they received Grammy and Tonys for Dear Evan Hansen, received an Oscar for their work on La La Land, and now with their work on Only Murders in the Building, they have received an Emmy. So they are the latest EGOT winners. Congrats to both of them.
Indeed. We can go ahead and announce the Emmy 2024 nominees for Outstanding Drama and Comedy ahead of the show. Outstanding Drama, of course, has The Crown, Fallout, The Gilded Age, The Morning Show, Slow Horses, Shogun, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, and Three Body Problem. And Outstanding Comedy has Abbott Elementary, The Bear, Curb Your Enthusiasm, Hacks, Only Murders in the Building, Reservation Dogs, Palm Royale, and What We Do in the Shadows. Have you seen a lot of these shows, Ryan? Because I have been missing out on quite a bit of them.
I have not seen Fallout, although I have heard great things from many people, so that's one that's on the radar. If you recall, I did watch the first episodes of Shogun and Three Body Problem, and I came back and reported that Shogun was magnificent.
Did you watch the whole thing?
That was around the time that I had to like pivot more into focusing on the film. And so I was like, let me not, try and watch the show when I'm going to be very distracted during it.
Mhm.
So it's definitely something I'm going to pick up again very, very soon because it looked stunning. The first episode was incredible, and all the rave reviews it's gotten since then. And again, the Emmys domination it's about to have, I think, proves the point that it is worthy of a watch. So that one I want to continue with. Three Body Problem, again, just a whole Netflix issue. We still got to work that out because I just am not able to see it.
Mhm.
Beyond that, though, Gilded Age, no. Morning Show, again, I did see the first episode of the first season.
Long time
Dropped
ago.
that immediately. Did not continue. Um, and then Mr. and Mrs. Smith, I know that's on Prime. Heard some decent things. I was surprised to see it get a nomination, so maybe that's worthwhile for watching. As far as comedy, the only ones I've seen, I am actually watching the most recent Abbott Elementary right now. Haven't picked up The Bear yet. Am watching Curb Your Enthusiasm. Haven't gotten to this most recent season, but such a great show.
You love your
And then
Curb.
I do love it. It's just stellar comedy writing, dude. The setups and payoffs, magnificent. Um, and then Reservation Dogs, I did see. So, I mean, The Bear and Shogun are going to be the obvious winners, I think. Do you have any outlandish predictions to throw in there?
No, not at all. I think they're going to absolutely clean up. But I think it's crazy that this, like looking at this, I guess I've fallen behind on TV because I have seen the seasons of television that are nominated this year at the Emmys. I've seen none of these seasons of television in its entirety except for The Bear. The Bear is the only one I saw in its entirety.
Mm.
And then I only watched half of Fallout. I never finished Fallout. And then the other ones I
Oh,
haven't even touched. So
gotcha.
I've really, really fallen off of the like modern day TV grind.
Indeed. Yeah,
There's just not
I
many
need to
shows
get,
that have been captivating me, you know?
which I think, I mean, 2024 has been a great year for television, I think. Again,
Yeah,
just from the
I think
ones that I dabbled
Fallout.
into, I
Yeah,
was impressed.
Fallout was good. I don't know why I didn't finish it. The Bear is obviously great. Shogun looks like something I would really enjoy. I just never picked it up. Uh, Not really interested in continuing the morning show after the first season. I dropped off of The Crown after like the second season. I think. I
Okay.
don't think I know what the Gilded Age even is. Abbott Elementary is just one that I have not really picked up. Curb is something I feel like I should start from the beginning to watch. It's done now. This is
Mm,
the last season, right?
yeah.
Yeah, that's something I should really get into. Hacks is something I think I would like. Only
Yeah,
Murders
that's
in the
been on the
Building.
list for
I
a
saw
while.
the first season. Reservation Dogs. You said that it's fantastic. Uh, don't know what Palm Royale is, and What We Do in the Shadows is something I've seen a couple episodes of, and I really enjoy it, but I just have not sat down and dedicated time to watching it.
Gotcha. Well, a lot of good things to catch up on then for the remainder of the year. Let's now move into our box office breakdown for September 6th to the 8th. Beetlejuice coming out on top with a thunderous $111 million in its debut, far exceeding all the predictions and expectations that we were throwing out there last week. Dylan, your thoughts on Beetlejuice?
I think it's very, very, very impressive that a sequel to a movie from the 80s, like a throwaway Tim Burton movie, that is a great film. The original Beetlejuice is fantastic. Can do numbers like this. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we'll get into a Beetlejuice review at any point on the show. Maybe if we do a grab bag way down the line. But I did get a chance to see it this week.
Oh,
And I have to report, as
and
someone who is a huge fan of the original Beetlejuice, I'm not a big fan of this one.
ooh,
It feels like a tiny bit of fan service and a whole lot of fan fiction,
oh gosh,
which is
wow.
not.
Well,
It's like on par with like Halloween Ends. Remember when we were talking about that? It's
yes,
like that, and I was like, oof.
like the quality overall of the film because we hated Halloween Ends.
I think the writing on par. Yes,
Oh,
I think
jeez.
the film itself has fun moments. I think Tim Burton has a lot of whimsy with his more dark stories, and I think they definitely go a little darker with this one at times. And Michael Keaton, fantastic. Winona Ryder, fantastic. Willem Dafoe, surprisingly fantastic for kind of a throwaway part that's in there.
Mm-hmm.
like they all have great moments in the movie. Catherine O'Hara also fantastic. I just feel like it wasn't needed, and if they were going to do it, there's like bits and pieces in the story that I think work kind of well, and bits and pieces that I think are terrible. And I think the terrible
Mm,
parts get too much screen time
dang. Well,
when they could have just been.
uh,
There's like two characters that I wish they could have just cut out of the story entirely.
two whole characters.
Two whole
Dang. I
characters that I
just
think the entire storylines they have are just so blatantly uninteresting, and they are 2/3 of the plot.
wow. Well, I'm sorry that it did not end up being something that you enjoyed or lived up to the original. And
Mhm.
maybe there'll be time. We haven't really planned out our Halloween episode yet, so maybe
Yeah.
there'll be a time for you and Sean, who will probably certainly have on for that. You guys
Mhm.
can have a little aside where you dig into the spoilers for it. But
Yeah.
regardless, people showed up for it. Not everyone maybe was pleased with it, but it was a huge opening. So
Oh yeah, it
congrats
was.
to everyone involved with that.
Now, I'm curious, what made you not want to pick Beetlejuice as uh your replacement pick for the box office draft?
It's only going to matter to people in the United States.
You're
Like
right. It's very
internationally,
front loaded
people
and it's very
truly don't
domestic
care.
heavy. You're right. You're
Yeah.
right. But you don't think it'll do better than what was your worst movie that you had? Was it Twisters?
Twisters, yeah. It'll do better than Twisters, I think. Like it'll get over 400 million probably. I don't think it'll go beyond 450 million, but uh, yeah, it just wasn't. I mean, this was a surprise for sure, but I don't think that it will be able to really be something that shakes up
Is there another movie
the
coming out this
current
year
battle that we have.
that you have
Oh
like
yeah,
on your
I'm
sights
holding on
on?
to it. You'll hear soon enough. Don't you worry. But I'm not sticking with Twisters until the end. There will be a swap at some point.
Okay.
And I just didn't think Beetlejuice was gonna give me enough juice, if you will,
No,
to
I don't think anything can
take
give
the
you enough
lead.
juice to take the lead. I think I've won this one for sure.
You never know. You never
But
know what can happen. Again, if Beetlejuice coming out here with 111 million, Moana 2, we'll see what happens there. Mufasa, who knows? We'll see what happens there. But yeah, don't you worry. There is a plan in place, and I'll see what I can do to try and catch up to you. But regardless, Deadpool and Wolverine, the crown jewel of your roster, I guess Inside Out too is so.
yeah,
Get another $1 billion plus film,
I got a
monsters with in
double
there.
whammy this year.
Yeah,
I
7
claimed the
million
summer yet again,
in
just like
its
last year.
seventh weekends. So it's still chugging along, doing well for itself in the top three.
And in third was Dennis Quaid's Reagan biopic with 4.8 million.
Alien Romulus with 3.9 million.
It Ends with Us 3.7 million.
The Forge 3 million.
Twisters 2.1 million.
Blink Twice 2 million.
Despicable Me 4 1.8 million.
And the front room rounds out the top 10 with 1.5 million. However, I got to give an update on two films that are well out of the top 10. Borderlands and Harold Harold and the Purple
Harold
Crayon.
versus the Purple Crayon.
That would be
Battle
maybe it would have been a
Royale.
better film. Um, that little battle we had of very disappointing films at the box office, we can crown the winner, and it is not Borderlands. It came up short, 15.4 million total in its domestic run, and then Harold and the Purple Crayon with 17.5 million domestically. So stateside, it won the battle. Worldwide, Borderlands did win by like 5 million. The worldwide total, by the way, is 32 million. Just devastating.
That's drastic.
Um,
That's horrible.
yeah.
God. If you're going to make a video game adaptation, put in the effort to make it good. They could have made Borderlands animated. I think more people would have come out for that. But also, Borderlands is kind of a far out there video game in the first place to make an adaptation. I don't know. I think it was ill-fated from the beginning.
Probably.
Yep. Moving on, let's do our box office predictions for September 13th to the 15th. Two new movies coming out this weekend. Speak No Evil with James McAvoy and Scoot McNairy and other people whose names I'm forgetting. But James McAvoy's leading the pack with his psycho vacation from or a couple met on vacation from hell kind of thing. What do you think, Ryan? In a field where looking at it, we don't have a lot of horror entries except for Alien Romulans, which is starting to fall off, and Blink Twice, which has fallen off quite a bit, and The Front Room, which never really got going. How do you think Speak No Evil will fare?
I think it'll get double digits,
Mm-hmm.
but only barely. I'll say 11 million.
I'm going to give it 16.
Oh,
I
you
think it could
believe
do a
in the
little
power
better
of
than you. I
McAvoy.
think it. Yep,
Interesting.
I believe in the power of McAvoy. He's got that Split fan base, quite literally the fan base from Split is what I mean. And I think I've seen the trailer so many goddamn times that I think they're just cramming it down our throats that people will go and see it. The advertising alone, I think, will pay off to get that extra 5 million to go from 11 to 16.
Interesting. They're like, God, I've seen so much of it already. Why not just go see the full thing?
Honestly, I'm thinking
Just
about it.
see what happens.
If I've got nothing to do,
Um, Let me know. Report back. I will not be joining you on that venture. I saw enough from the trailer, but curious to see how people respond to it. And The Killer's Game, the other film debuting this weekend, Batista leading that one. Hitman puts a hit out on himself because he thinks he's dying, but then he realizes it was a
oh
mistake and
right,
he's not dying, but the hit is still in effect.
I
So he has
forgot about
to.
this one. Wasn't this on one of our, if not both of our, most anticipated films of the year? Wasn't it on somebody's or
No,
like an honorable mention or something?
no, because I think it hit our radars during CinemaCon, which is
That's what
when
it
it
is. You're
first came
right.
out, and that was the one that I was like, okay, this is compelling to me, and obviously it has Batista in it as well, so I'll probably check this out.
I completely
Honestly,
forgot it was a thing until we mentioned it for this episode. Wow, completely forgot.
yeah,
What do you think? Like, I would say like 6 or 7 million.
I was gonna put it in that area. Yeah, 7 mil.
Yeah, that's rough. But hopefully it's good, and hopefully you like it if you decide to check it out.
Thank you. Yeah, hopefully it'll be good. But now let's head into our discussion of Francis Ford Coppola. Again, we're going to have a full month dedicated to his career, charting the rise, the dominance, and the fall of his directorial prowess. So, in this episode, again, we're going to cover all the pre Godfather stuff. So, our bio will focus on his early years and how he got started with his first few films. In this episode, we're going to talk about Dementia 13, Finian's Rainbow, and The Rain People, all in the 60s. So, our man Coppola was born in 1939, a young fella. He's a third gen Italian immigrant. Um, he was bedridden as a boy with polio. So, while in bed, he kept himself entertained with hand puppet theater plays, and then he truly developed an interest into theater, particularly writing with a streetcar named Desire when he read that at 15. So that inspired him to go to Hofstra College to get a major in theater arts, and that's a place where he met one of his future collaborators, James Caan. Um, and so while he was there, his interest switched from theater over to cinema, to movies, when he saw Sergei Eisenstein's October, 10 Days That Shook the World. So because of that, he decided, while he loved storytelling and writing still, he wanted to put all his efforts particularly into film.
And after UCLA Film School in 1962, he was hired by Roger Corman to re-edit some of his films, such as Nebo Zoivat, which was a Soviet sci-fi flick, and The Young Racers. And while he was doing those re-edits on The Young Racers and working on that production, Corman asked Coppola to come up with a low-budget film to shoot with the leftover funds of The Young Racers, and that movie was Dementia 13. It had a 9-day production, and on that set, he met his future wife, Eleanor. And while he was shooting, or because he was using leftover funds from The Young Racers, he also uses a lot of the same sets and a lot of the same actors from that movie. So you'll see a lot of crossover between The Young Racers and Dementia 13. And Dementia 13 will be the first movie we talk about in a little bit.
Absolutely. He was still at UCLA during that time in a master's program. His thesis film was his second full feature film. You're a Big Boy Now is the name of it. It was loosely adapted from a book by David Benedictus, which is a crazy name. What a name.
Great name.
Absolutely. So after that film, which was quite successful, he was offered to adapt the Broadway musical Finian's Rainbow from the 1940s. And so he went ahead and did that, worked with Warner in order to do so. And on that set, he met George Lucas, who then became a PA in his subsequent film, Three People. And then from there, obviously, they went on to create the Studio American Zoetrope, which we'll talk about more in our next episode on Coppola. But that's our snapshot of how he got into film and got work on these most early feature films. So let's kick it off and dive into Dementia 13. Came out in 1963, starring William Campbell, Lana Anders, Patrick Magee, Bart Patton, and Mary Mitchell. So, your initial impressions.
It's only an hour and 15 minutes, and it definitely feels like it took 9 days to shoot, and it definitely feels like it was written hastily
Yeah.
in order to like hearing the background that Roger Corman came to him and like was like, "Hey, can you just film like a low budget film? We got all these sets left over. We've got these actors. Can you just shoot something?" Definitely feels like something that was just thrown together with a lot of last minute stuff. I mean, it in all honesty feels like a Psycho ripoff in a lot of ways, which we'll talk about when we start talking about the actual plot. But I didn't have that great of a time with it. But it's his first movie, and he's on a very tight budget, and he has so many actors. And it's just I feel like with what he had, something better could have been made because he already had, it was very low budget, of course, but he already had, real movie sets here, and he had a full
Mm-hmm.
crew, and he had actors, and he had the budget to shoot, at least an hour and 15 minutes worth of material. And I feel like something better could have been made out of it.
Gotcha. Yeah, I am with you there on it not being the greatest showcase of Coppola, but again, this was his like very earliest work as far as feature film thing, and again, it was very thrown together. So I don't really fault him or the team for that at all. I think there's some sequences that actually are really strong showcases of him and the talent that obviously he would go on to fully sharpen in the 70s. But a lot of those were scenes where the characters just weren't talking, because that I think was the weakest part of it. Just anything to do with the characters talking with each other, the dialogue that they had, it was just not solid, not solid at all.
Yeah, the
Um,
psychiatrist had terrible dialogue.
yeah, not good at all. So when he was able to just, and he did write the movie, it was like his dialogue that was included there, but when he was able to just focus on the images and just establishing an atmosphere and a mood, I think that was coming across much stronger. And he did have, that set, that mansion, I guess, the castle that they have, uh, I think did lend a lot to the film. I think he made good use of that. Uh, we'll talk about it as we get deeper into it, but yeah, some of the sequences were effective. Some of them uh, a little heavy-handed on certain aspects, like the score. But yeah, I think overall he was given an opportunity, and he absolutely took it and did what he needed to do with it. I think it showcased that he was very competent, had like an eye, had a vision, and so yeah, I think it worked for what he needed it to do. So now we're going to dive into spoilers, talk about the plot, everything. Um, a Psycho ripoff, you say?
Yeah,
It certainly is. He was very much
absolutely.
inspired by Psycho, even down to that like twist about 30 minutes in of, oh, our main actress that we're following ends up getting got.
Hmm.
So yeah,
The red
very
herring
very
of it all, that
Psycho.
she's trying to, she is a morally ambiguous character that we're following because of her moral ambiguity, and then the red herring of that not being the actual plot, and she gets stuck in her tracks, stopped in her tracks immediately by a psycho killer on the loose, and that becomes the main focus of our attention. But Psycho does it infinitely better because you
Yeah.
get to know there's more of a like transitional period, I would say, for the two plots to kind of meld together in the middle. It's not very abrupt in Psycho, which is what's wonderful. And
Mhm.
the specifically the killing scenes are very similar. I mean, the cross cutting between the killing and then the murder victim and the killing and the murder victim, it's very reminiscent and whatnot. And I think the worst part about this version of it is that you just didn't know that there was a hatchet wielding man just walking around that's about to kill her. Like, somebody's following her, but you didn't know that they were a psychopath.
Right.
Which I suppose you could
So
make the same argument for Psycho. You didn't know that there was a killer on the loose in the motel, but at the very least, there was enough buildup of eeriness to sort of not be surprised when it does happen.
yeah, for sure. I think it's a solid point. I think the other element of like why Psycho is so much more effective in doing that, um, it definitely spends more time like building up the character that we're following. Again, you mentioned the moral ambiguity, but in this one, I mean, there's not much to like about her. I mean, she
Yeah.
was like very just callous. Not that the husband was like any better, but like just very
He just
quickly of
has a
like,
heart
okay,
attack and
that's
she just
done.
dumps his body.
Yeah, and she's like, all right, now new mission, new
Should you
objective
choose to
unlocked.
accept it?
Yeah, so she went hardcore into that. Um,
If he had made the whole movie, like if he had scrapped the whole plot line of the sister getting drowned and the brothers going crazy and the mother going crazy, if he had scrapped the whole plot line and just made it more about uh maybe not even scrapped, but scrapped the whole axe murder. I think the axe murder was the weakest part, even though like it's what takes over the plot. I think if they'd kept it more about her trying to just conspire to get the inheritance from the mother by because her whole point is that she's trying to scare her into a heart attack to have her die before her husband is declared dead so that she can have the inheritance before her husband is found
mhm,
dead. If they had kept that plot going, I think that would have been more interesting than just throwing in an axe murderer for no reason.
right. Yeah, because it was compelling when she was like, okay, I'm gonna start planting these seeds to make the mother think that I'm the conduit for the
Hmm.
dead sister to talk. So
Yeah.
I was interested in that. And then obviously the big surprise of like the hatchet killer, which was compelling. Again, the immediate like Psycho vibes came through. But going back to what worked so well in Psycho, number one, you had a more strong connection to that character than we did in this one. But then the perspective shift was executed perfectly in Psycho, whereas in this one, I just felt that there was a lack of perspective of like who we were following,
Hmm.
why we were following them, and what mattered. Like who are we rooting for? Who are we trying
Yeah.
to hope stays alive? Because you have in Psycho, I mean, we start following Norman Bates for a bit, but then we go to the sister, right?
Hmm.
And then her like boyfriend or husband or an eventual romantic interest, and Arbogast is in there as well. So we're like following them, and they have clear goals of like trying to investigate stuff. Here, there's the like one butler servant guy, but we follow him for that one scene where he's hunting after that rabbit. But it's like, okay,
He
are
gets
we?
hatcheted.
Is he the main character? Yeah, he gets hatched right there. So it's like, nope. Are we following the Billy guy? I think was his name. Are we following who I thought would have been the next most obvious choice is the wife of the older brother,
Hmm.
because she is the one that's caught in between like those other two male figures of the family
Yeah.
who are the other prime suspects. So I thought it would have made sense to switch to her. but the psychiatrist ends up getting more like screen time than she does. So I'm like, what? Like, who are we following here? We just didn't have someone to latch onto.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think it just loses sense of itself. It feels more like instead of Psycho being one cohesive thought, one cohesive movie that's going through, it feels like this Dementia 13 was two different ideas stitched together in some unwieldy, horrifying Frankenstein monster of a movie. Like you have
Mm-hmm.
the psychological thriller of the uh her initial wife trying to con the family into getting an inheritance while also dealing with like a family grieving from a psycho spiritual haunting over them. And at the same time, you just have a hatchet wielding madman stalking the premises, and you're like stitching those two ideas together, and it feels
Mm-hmm.
wrong. It's too much. Too much going on.
Right.
It's definitely
Um,
like a shitty movie you'd see in like a drive-in theater or something. You know?
yeah. I mean, that's what it was. It was a Corman film, definitely a like a B movie.
Yeah.
So again, for that and the budget level as well,
Cheap
it being
thrills.
3 days and the budget was leftover funds from a different film. Like it was definitely a film that was scrapped together, and you can see that even some of the like early on, I was noticing a lot of the just exposure was a little hot, a little overexposed on some of the stuff. So it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, it makes sense for this film being very scrappy and put together. But again, I think some of the sequences when there aren't people talking or when it's at its best, when the initial lady that we're following is going through that one storage room and just like trying to find things that belong to the daughter that she can use to trick the rest of the family. I thought that had a solid atmosphere to it.
Yeah.
I think the way that the hunting sequence of the one guy, the servant, right before he gets nailed, I thought that had a good flow to it, good pacing to it. So again, there were times where I was like, okay, I'm seeing the promise of one of our great American filmmakers here. Um, but yeah, a lot of the rest of it, you could see that it is what it was, a B movie that was just thrown together um, very hastily. So, any other final thoughts on Dementia 13?
It had potential and it fell short by quite a bit. Like potential of being even like a decent B film.
Mm,
And I don't think it even quite made it to that. I think it's because I just think for the most part it's either too unfocused. It becomes so unfocused that it becomes uninteresting and
mm,
almost boring in a way, which is unfortunate. Like there are B movies where yeah, they're not written very well, but at least I'm entertained. And I think as much as I disliked the hatchet wielding madman plotline, I think the scenes where he's just stalking his victims is more interesting than most of the dialogue scenes in the whole movie, if not all of the dialogue scenes in the whole movie.
right.
But again, the
Yeah, for
most
sure.
interesting scene of the film is when, like you said, the initial wife of the initial guy is, uh, I guess her name is Lana Anders in real life. I'll just call her Lana Anders. She is uh, looking for those toys to plant the seeds of psychoticness or whatever in the mother, and she's like diving into the water to tie them down so that they bobble up into the pond. I think that's very interesting. So when she died, I was like, we don't even get to see her watch her plan unfold. And
Yeah,
they still bring it back at least later on, which is good. So it still like has a cause and effect, but it just feels sort of messy and unfulfilling,
yeah, I
dissatisfying,
can agree with
uninteresting.
that. One line of dialogue I did want to point out, though, said by the psychiatrist when just some other, I guess, attendant or someone that was like working for him was there and was lingering too long. He was like, "Go away, or I will wish 5 years of spinsterhood on you." That's a crazy thing to say. Did you catch
I
that?
did catch that. That was wild.
I was like,
That
"Oh
shit
my
goes
god!"
hard.
Yeah. So, new insult. There you go. Add that one to the to the catalog. Um, but all right, any guesses as to what Dementia 13 means? What does the 13 stand for?
Uh, isn't it that they had like a bit of the film that played before the actual film where it was like they Dementia 13 test where they were trying to. It was like a warm up for the audience, like a cheerleader warm up, where they are showing them horrifying things and asking them questions. Like, if you don't pass the test, you shouldn't watch the movie. Like, are you terrified
Mm,
of this? Are you terrified of that? But it got scrapped later on. I think at some point they showed it, like in the 80s or 90s or something, with the original opening. But nobody really has seen it. What do you think?
interesting. No, I have no clue. It's just like they threw something together. Dementia 13. Oh, that sounds cool. Yeah, what's wrong with that?
I mean, that's I'm
Because
sure that's
it
the
doesn't come up in the
origin.
film, I don't think.
Yeah, I'm sure that's the origin of the name, but I think the purpose in relation to the film of calling it that was that there was the Dementia 13 test that they had filmed to lead into the movie, of literally just like asking the audience to answer these questions. Are you afraid? I think it's on the poster.
Yeah,
If
I mean, I
you,
remember seeing something like that on the poster, but
yeah,
I just didn't know what application it had to the film.
I think
But
that was the purpose, but the actual name itself, Dementia 13, is meaningless, completely meaningless.
nice. All right, how many hatchets out of 5 are you giving this one?
I'm gonna give it 1.5.
Dang, hardcore. I'm giving it 2. So I mean, yeah, it's higher than that, but all right, let's move on to Finian's Rainbow in 1968, starring Fred Astaire, Petula Clark, Don Franks, Al Freeman Jr., Barbara Hancock. This was nominated at the Golden Globes for Best Musical, and there were nominations for Astaire, for Clark, and for Hancock. So it was getting some mainstream industry acclaim. Obviously, it was a big adaptation as well, so definitely the biggest project Coppola had taken on by this point. Also, the only one that he didn't write or at least co-write. And it did get Oscar nominations for Best Score and Best Sound. So, Dylan, what were your thoughts on this? And also, since you have more of a theater background than me, did you know of Finian's Rainbow before we looked into it for this episode?
I had never heard of Finian's Rainbow other than like in passing, but I do know the song "Look, Look, Look to the Rainbow." I feel like that's more famous than the play itself. I feel like a
Mm.
lot of people know that song, but I know that one. But I had never heard of it. I didn't really know what the plot was. I didn't really know what to expect, and I loved it. I thought it was great.
Oh, that's so
I
good.
thought it was absolutely entertaining. I thought Fred Astaire was magnetic on the screen. I thought all of the side characters had good, like roles to play in the story. I think it was very very funny for a movie this old. Like a lot of good beats in there. I think a lot of the satire about race is done really really well, especially at the time, especially considering that the original play came out in the 40s and is adapted
Mm-hmm.
from that. So I think it's definitely ahead of its time in a lot of ways. I think the music is all great. I think the musical numbers are great. I think the set design is gorgeous. I think it works on a lot of levels, and it's sad to know that it doesn't get as much recognition or love as a lot of other musicals out there, because I think it stands above a lot of the ones I've seen.
Wow.
But also,
So high,
I
high
am a
praise.
fan of these sort of MGM, big set design musicals like White Christmas, or like what's it called? What am I, stupid?
You got to give me something. Give me something to help.
Uh, uh, God.
One element, one
Name one
characteristic.
musical from the 50s. Name one musical. It's the
Any
musical from the
one movie?
50s. What am I, stupid? Gene Kelly?
Uh,
God.
oh, hold on.
Ah,
Let me help you out there.
Debbie Reynolds.
Again,
Singing
my
in the
my thing
Rain.
is,
Singing in the Rain.
oh
God,
yeah,
I'm so
oh of
stupid.
course.
Which I think is actually the 60s. I don't know why I said 50s. But yeah, Singing in the Rain. I feel like that sort of big studio style musical is something I find appealing, even though obviously there's a lot of fakeness about it. It just feels more. Whereas like a lot of more modern day musicals like Chicago or Hairspray, things like that, I feel like they feel more like movie musicals. Whereas I feel like these older school big studio productions feel more like theatrical productions that are being filmed. It feels more like you're going to the theater to see a performance as opposed to just a movie of a musical. And I think that has a
Gotcha.
lot to do with set design. It has a lot to do with intention. But this is just another example of that. And oh man, it fires on all cylinders. I think it's great. Ryan, your thoughts?
Nice. That's awesome. I did not love it as much as you,
Damn.
but there were portions of it where I was very entertained. A lot of it is very delightful. A lot of it looks incredible,
Mm-hmm.
which we'll get into it. But I mean, yeah, I thought the set design was great, but then there's obviously portions where it was filmed on location. That whole opening credits
It's
of
great.
just showing them just going through the American countryside, I'm like, this is stunning imagery. Like, it was beautiful. So
Took about a
yeah, I
fat minute to
was
find Rainbow Valley. They
yeah,
went
that
all
did for
over,
sure.
man. God damn.
It was a hidden little gem, but yeah, they saw some incredible sights on the way. So I thought that was fantastic. Again, I did think a lot of the music was really really strong, um, and I can appreciate the like commentary they're trying to include on like race and class and stuff like that. I think some of it works better than others, um, but I don't know. I just thought overall it was like very an interesting mix of like combining these real world issues and then the like just going fully into like Irish folklore of these leprechauns and all that, and the pot of gold and the wishes. Um, so I don't know that all of that fully gelled and worked for me, but um, I mean, yeah, I thought there were portions of it I really dug. Other portions of it was losing me. We'll talk about specific instances and in some cases just specific actors and characters that I did not click with. And so anytime they were on screen, I was like, please move along. But yeah, I thought it was great to see like this big step up once Coppola was able to have a big budget and worked like alongside a studio and what we were able to see from him because just right away, I mean, I could tell it was the particular. I mean, again, the whole opening credits was stunning, but even just when we see the Rainbow Valley for the first time, and then they have the little kid that goes off and tries to tell somebody about something. I forget what the
He's
conflict
looking
was.
for Susan the Silent to get her to come to the
Yes.
auction.
Wow, look at you. Big fan. You knew that instantly.
Yeah, I
Um,
really enjoyed it. I was paying full attention.
but even that moment where I was like, this is just like already 10 times more dynamic than like anything in Dementia 13.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I thought it was great to see that and see more of him firing on all cylinders from a directorial standpoint. So yeah, all right, let's start to dig into it.
Can I guess
Um,
the character you didn't like? The one that you thought you disconnected with and you didn't like when they were on screen?
I'm sure you will know, but yeah, go ahead.
Is it Woody?
Um, no, kind of. I have a couple points, a couple notes for him,
Really?
but um, the idea of the character, I think, is great. I think the actor, I just don't think that he had like the it factor. You know, this is
I
supposed
would
to be the guy
agree.
that like everyone in the town is like doing a song, a whole number for him, saying
Woody's
like
coming to
Woody's coming to
town.
town.
Woody's
You
coming to
gotta have
town.
like a lot of charisma and oomph behind you.
You could
I
have
just didn't
Fred
think
Astaire
he
playing that role. Oh, you
exactly.
can't.
Even at his age, I think Fred Astaire would have had a more like strong presence in that role. So I was like, they just needed, I think, somebody else, and then also someone different. Like it was, I think, Petula Clark as what was it, Sharon?
Yeah.
What was her name? She was wonderful.
Mm.
Loved her. Thought she was great. Wouldn't change her at all. But yeah, I just thought the actor for Woody, they should have gone with something different, someone a little younger as well, maybe. And then the actual character was the leprechaun. The leprechaun
No,
guy.
Og.
Dude, despised him. Hated him.
Why?
It just it's one of those things where it's like it just does not mesh at all, but I was just it was so grating to me every time he came on. Just the acting style, again the singing, like the songs itself was fine, but just the like facial expressions he would add to it. Obviously, they're meant to be theatrical and very expressive, but something about his particular way of doing it just rubbed me the wrong way. So I was like,
I
I do not
loved
care for
him. I
this
thought he was
leprechaun.
fantastic. He was perfectly cast to play a leprechaun. I just don't think you like leprechauns.
Dude, I mean,
When
I
you're not
enjoy
near the one
leprechauns.
that you love the
You
one
and
that
I
you're near.
have we have Irish roots, the you and I. So I mean, I'm down with leprechauns. It's
You
just
do?
not that guy. Did you just ask if I have Irish roots?
Kinda.
What is my name? Ryan Hill.
Yeah, isn't that like Scottish or something?
I mean, it's definitely a mix of them, but there's plenty of Irish Ryans around. Um, but we've also talked about this before.
Have we?
I mean, you on the show at least, your Irish
Openly
heritage is
Irish,
well
yeah.
documented. But I mean, we've talked about mine as well. I mean, undoubtedly. So
Okay.
how dare you? But what do you think of the? I mean, in Dementia 13, a lot of Irish going on. They were in Ireland for that.
Yeah.
Finian's Rainbow, obviously very Irish heavy.
Feels
The
odd coming
leprechauns,
from
literal
Francis Ford
leprechauns.
Coppola,
Yeah,
who's
the
so
Italian man.
openly
I was like,
Italian, so
what's going on?
broadly and like significantly Italian, like
Yeah, I don't
significant to the
know how that
Italian
happened.
culture of America. Like one of the
So,
most famous Italian Americans of the last 70 years, 100
mhm,
years even.
yeah. So very,
Given
very
a name to the
funny
Irish at the
that he's
beginning of his
just
career, and then he goes, "What am I doing? What am I doing? Italians! I have to be helping the Italians."
exactly. And then
Made the
that's when it
Godfather,
all
and then it took
changed.
off. Yeah.
Yeah. So wow, once again, the Irish being left behind. Once he switches away from Irish
Oi.
people, he gets the big break. But yeah, so he just was not someone that I wanted to watch on
Did
screen.
you
So
like the
anytime he came on,
plot?
I was upset.
Did you like the plot of Finian going to Fort Knox to bury the gold so that he can strike more gold? Which is like the sort of way the story gets going.
Yeah, I was like, okay, I guess we're going for that. That gold, you can just plant it and then it'll yield more gold.
I think it's so
Um,
funny. But it
it's
doesn't yield more gold. They just detect the gold that's buried there.
well, no, but wasn't that his plan? Like, wasn't that why
That was his
he?
plan,
Or
yes. Yes.
yeah,
But it doesn't actually do that.
well, right. But I'm just saying that was his like idea was like this was gonna happen, but couldn't. Which again, that sort of lost me there. Of like, was I know he had that story of he's like, oh, the gold rush, and then they brought it over to was it Fort Knox? Was that the place? And then
Hmm.
that was what he was like, yes, and so that means this will work. But no one could have like the leprechaun couldn't have told him like, buddy, that's not how that works. Like,
Well,
it's not
he
gonna.
doesn't tell the leprechaun his plan.
Mm,
The leprechaun just knows that he stole a crock of gold. And
yes, I see.
I think it's just like the hopes of a drunken man, kind of like a simple drunk Irish fellow who's sort of on his last whim, who just needs a lucky break, and this is his
As
last
we
ditch
all are,
effort.
yes.
Just has to bury this crock of gold I stole from the leprechaun right near
But if
Fort
you had
Knox.
the crock of gold, and if you
Aye,
had three wishes,
indeed.
why couldn't you just wish for more gold or just money? Just get a printing machine, bro. Printing press.
Because remember,
Print
he's
that
not
thing.
trying to use the crock of gold because that would kill all the leprechauns. What he's trying to do is just borrow it for a little bit. He borrows the crock of gold, buries it, and then he's going to give it back to Og once he's done with it.
Incredible. So, and that too, did that, because Og, he just becomes mortal at the end. But what about
Yeah.
all the other leprechauns? Is it like one croc for one leprechaun, and
I mean, how
that's the
many
tie,
leprechauns
or
have you
is
seen?
it a
This took place
community?
in 1968, or I guess it takes place in 1940 something. I haven't seen any leprechauns since then, so.
Wow, he killed them all, dude. That's crazy.
Yeah, but Susan got to talk again, and Sharon got to live.
And racism was solved.
And
So
racism was solved.
we, it was a good trade. Sorry,
We
all
got
leprechauns.
three really good things out of it, okay? Thank you very much.
Yeah. Okay. Again, I mean, yeah, it's just set up to have fun musical numbers and Irish theming and things like that.
Thoughts on the satire on racism?
So the part that got me the most invested in the whole film was that moment in time right before she says the words, "I wish you were black." Because as it was coming up, I was like, there's no shot they're going to do this. I'm like, I know it's back in time. But again, throughout the beginning of the film, like when you see Rainbow Valley initially and it's like all these white and black people together, I'm like, oh, this is a nice thing to see. Like it was many years ago, not too long after the civil rights movement, but you can still definitely see these harmful stereotypes and stuff like that in there. So I was pleasantly surprised. I didn't know about it being written in 1940s, but even that makes it more like, wow, it is ahead of its time. It is pretty
Mhm.
progressive here.
Well,
And
the thing is,
then,
they wrote the play in the 40s, and then they had been approached to adapt it many times. Whoever wrote it, I forget who it was. They had been approached to adapt it but every time they had been approached, they had been asked to change it to get rid of a lot of the uh, race commentary and change it for other
Mm,
bits of the storyline, and they refused to do so until now. That's why it took so long to get it adapted.
interesting. Um, so yeah, but at least
Supposedly.
at its core, the story was, trying to be very strong on that front. And you see even stuff like that before them just making fun of the racist senator, and when they had the one scientist guy that was working on the tobacco,
Isn't that such a good
and
bit?
he's there walking terribly slowly, trying to get him his thing, saying, "Oh, I'm coming. Don't
Oh,
worry."
I'm coming. I'm coming. Oh, I'm gonna get there. Give it to me. Give it to me now. He's like
they
whining like a baby. Come on, where is
they
it?
sit on that for a
Where is it?
full minute too.
I
Like they're
love it.
just like, "This is
It
a
gets
great bit. We're just gonna
funnier.
keep it
It's
going."
a really good
And
bit.
he really
Dude,
he does not move like an inch. Like he's really staying put.
dude, it's
He's getting
great.
all the way in it.
It's such a
So
good bit.
yeah, that was really good. So they had stuff like that in there. So I'm like, okay, like this is a great uh like display of just equality and being conscious of race. And then we get to that moment, and I'm like, no shot. There's no
Mm-hmm.
shot. And then he says it, or she says it, and I literally I leaned up, like I'm on my bed laying watching it. I lean forward, and I'm like, no, no way. And then they do it, the thunder crack, the lightning, and then we cut to the senator again. My man is decked out in some blackface. I'm
I
like,
wish they had just changed to a black actor that was like the same build and height and hairstyle and mustache. They could have just put in like if you were gonna make this movie today, you could keep it exactly as it was, but you just change it so that it's a black actor playing the role. And I feel like that's got to be how they did it on stage because there's no shot they're painting a man to be black that quickly too.
I think there's ways they could get around it for sure. They just have him hidden a little bit, and
Just
then boom, he comes out of the
brush him
car,
real
and then he's
fast.
there. Yeah, you
Yeah,
got a makeup artist hidden in the car in the trunk,
I just
and
feel
just
like it's
leans
so
over and they
much more convenient just to swap out the actors with like a black actor playing the same part.
hmm wild, just truly, truly wild. I mean, again, thankfully
And
they
I
didn't
think
like have
the
him start acting like quote unquote acting black, anything like
yeah,
that.
yeah.
So they didn't
I think
fully go terrible, but I'm like,
I think the
y'all.
plot point of the senator turning black for like the second half of the movie would be funny. Like I think it would work really, really well. I just wish it had been an actual black actor to play that version
hmm
because I think it does have like funny moments and it does work well as a plot point. Obviously, it ushers the plot along for the second half of the film. It's just hard to look at.
Yeah,
It's like comical in itself when it's not trying to be comical in itself.
very true, very true.
It's the only
So
rough part of the movie, man. Other than
that
that, it worked
element
great. What about the whole bit that
aged poorly.
they're making mentholated tobacco, but it just won't burn? Oh, that's
Again,
pretty
I'm like,
good.
what is going on with this like movie? Like they're just designing a new strain of like the tobacco
It's
plant, and
great. Yeah,
that's the
that's how they're
what
gonna get
the
rich.
Rainbow Valley, their economy is going to be based on that. I'm like, sure, like
It's
let's just
gonna
go
be
with it.
their version of gold.
hmm
Everybody's just trying to get rich. Everybody's just trying to make it.
Yeah. All right. So, what do you think of the musical numbers? What are your top songs?
Um, obviously, look, look, look to the rainbow. I think that's the crowning jewel of the whole thing. I think it's a fantastic like main number to have opening
Oh,
and
for sure.
closing and reprises and whatnot. I think it's fantastic. I think the Devil Moon number was very far down on the list.
Dang.
Not a fan. I think the song that Og sings the when your love is not near. What is it? When you're not near your love, love the one you're near. I like that
Yeah.
song, even though you don't like Og.
Really.
I really like Og.
No, I did not like that song. I did not like the content. Funny enough, I like the Old Devil Moon song more. Like that was one of the higher ones on mine.
I thought it was boring. I thought it was like just traditional. Like there's not even any choreography. They're just laying next to each other, serenading each other for a fat like 2 minutes.
It was a while, but I thought their voices were beautiful.
Their
I was like,
voices
oh,
are beautiful. They perform it great, but there's just no There's nothing dynamic about it. It's just very,
Mm,
very still and boring and plain. And as gorgeous as the set is, I'm just staring at him like, yeah, I get it. You're in love. Okay, I got it. I got it 20 seconds ago. You're in love. Okay, I got it. Okay, can you just do something? Can you get up and dance? Get up and dance for me. Dance, monkey dance. Like, come on. This is a musical. Like, do something. If you put two actors on stage to sing that duet and you just had them lay against the hill the entire time for
hmm
2 minutes, talk about a snoozer, bro. God damn.
Gotcha.
I like the what is this song? It's about being poor and rich.
That was the other one that I had. Yeah,
That's a
the
really
idol
good one.
poor becomes the idol rich. That was
Yes,
great. That was
that
very
is
fun.
fantastic. And they're all getting all the presents and stuff. I thought it was really
hmm
funny when they're throwing out all their old crap. There's a short shot of a guy throwing his wife into the pile.
Crazy.
It's really funny.
They I said that too though. They threw the whole piano out to get the jukebox. I
That's
was
a
like,
really
guys,
good visual
gonna
gag. Yeah, can we get a jukebox? Well, it says here, yes, you can. They just dropped the whole thing. It's fantastic.
hmm
I think there's
um
there's plenty of good, funny moments in this movie. I think it
yeah.
works as a musical. I think it works as a comedy. I think it. I think the only criticism you could make of it that I think is fair is that it does, other than the blackface, I think it does tend to bite off more than I think it can chew in terms of commentary because it's making commentaries on capitalism, it's making commentaries on race. It's just a lot all at once, and
hmm
I think it does a good job of trying to balance the two. I just don't think it really dedicates enough time to either to really say something super meaningful,
Yeah.
which is sad because it could. It has the potential to if you picked one or the other, but because it's trying to tackle both and also have a good time while you're doing it, I think it's better to view the film as just a fun film to watch. It's funny, it's delightful. They have good music numbers. Fred Astaire dances and he's phenomenal. As opposed to anything else. And funny leprechauns that people like.
hmm
I can't believe you didn't like Og.
I did not. I just really did not. Grinded my gears.
Was it the
Um
teeth?
no.
What
Nothing,
was
no.
it? He's given a
Teeth was
stellar
fine.
performance in this.
Yeah, just not for me. Not to my
He
taste.
got some of the best jokes in the movie.
Name one. When he said, as long as they got a bosom, I want a wasum. That's the one that's your
Yeah,
favorite song.
stellar. He's speaking. He's
I was
speaking to
like,
my
oof.
heart. He's a man of my. He's a man of my own
Get the beautiful
culture.
lovers serenading each other out of here. I want to see him literally go wooza. Again, he went for it. Like
Yeah,
it
he
was
did.
very theatrical. He went all in. So good on that front. But yeah, it was not for me. Um, I will say as well the dance number that like the tap dancing obviously gave Astaire a nice moment for that
Mhm.
when they first come to Rainbow Valley. I thought that was delightful. Again, it was all great. It really, again, once the leprechaun showed up, I was like, ooh, is
God,
when
that's
I
so
was
rough.
enjoying it the whole way, all the way up, and
Like when he takes the dress
then it
up out of the
started
well and he
fluctuating.
starts flying.
Mm.
That's such a
No,
good
I mean,
shot.
again, it was
It's
pretty
a good
cool, but
effect. Come on.
yeah, but I was not a big fan. All right, how many crocs of Glockamora Gold out of 5?
I think maybe it's in my head a little too much, but I'm gonna give it a full 5. I was just
A
so
full
delighted.
5?
I was
What?
just so delighted.
Oh my god, that's
I had
crazy!
such a blast. It might
I
go
did not
down.
expect it.
I could see it going down to like a 4 over time, but it was just so delightful, and I love these kinds of studio musicals so much that I'm going to give it a full 5. The same way that I would probably give White Christmas a full 5, even though I don't think that's a perfect movie either. Just I think you've like got me somewhere deep in my heart when you have these big set pieces with these very very like legitimately talented theatrical performers being put to film, as opposed to like just famous actors that you are asking to sing and dance who can't do it. You have like real
Mhm.
dedicated performers out there doing like the top tier of their like what is it called? I'm just all over the place.
Talents of
Yes,
their discipline.
of their yeah whatever. Like you have the top tier performers on film committed to it. They have Fred Astaire, you have Petula Clark, you have Barbara Hancock, who's a fantastic dancer. Like it's all phenomenal all around. You watch White Christmas, you got Bing Crosby and all those people. I mean, it's incredible.
All right. Wow. So a
Singing in the Rain,
few.
Gene Kelly just taking it away. You know,
I mean, I'm right there
phenomenal,
with you for sure. So
bro.
wow,
Sound of
5 out of 5
Music. Come on,
for Finian Rainbow. Yeah, Sound of Music was one because once, yeah, the whole like commentary of race and class and everything was coming in here. I'm like, for a musical, like, are we really we're digging into
it's
this? But
a
Sound of
lot of
Music, I mean, that's
topics to
got like heavy
cover.
topics in there.
Yeah, a very, very light comedy musical. It's a lot of heavy topics to try and cover, and they don't like hit a particularly poignant point about it, but they do hit the right stance overall. And I think if you are, if other, as opposed to like influencing a person one way or the other, just telling a good story that you agree with, I think is fine. Just a fun story that doesn't have to be too serious or take itself too seriously. You could just dance with the characters in Rainbow Valley with Finian, and you could have yourself a good time with Finian McLonergan.
Indeed, McLonergan, great last name,
It is.
very fun to say.
Tis indeed.
I'm giving it 2.5
Damn.
Crocs of Glaucomagora Gold.
That might be our
Again,
biggest
yeah,
gap so far in the show.
it
One
might be.
off.
That's pretty huge. No, I think the Stay and Predestination back
That's
to back
fair.
combo.
You
You
gave
hated
fives to
those.
both of those, didn't you?
No, again, you always misremember this.
Of course I do.
Only
Of
one of them
course I
got a
do.
5, and I will not tell you which.
It was
That's
predestination.
for the next time we bring them up. But
It
anyway,
was predestination.
no,
You stay? You gave stay a five?
yes,
You're a crack addict. You're
you gave a 5
ridiculous.
to a blackface film. It's on record. No, I'm not kidding.
I gave a
I'm sorry.
five to
Its
every
heart
other
was in the
scene of
right
this
place.
movie.
It was a 4 until the blackface, and then it was a 5.
I would give Tropic Thunder a five. That came out in 2008.
That's true. Yeah.
I probably
Again, the
wouldn't. I think I'd give it like a four, maybe.
heart was in the right place, but you know, it didn't fully land the plane. But that's okay.
Look to the rainbow.
That is a really good song.
It's so good.
Um,
There's a lot of good ones in there.
I'm
And
gonna
the
listen
musical
back to that
numbers
one.
are like just. I feel like we kind of got caught up in the movie itself. We forgot to talk about Coppola, but I mean, who knew he had it in him to direct such great musical numbers? I think the editing of them and the pacing of them work really, really well. Of like translating a musical number from the stage that would be typically one shot, essentially, because it's you're looking at a stage, a theater, and translating that into an editable, cutting sort of medium that is film, being able to cut around these
Hmm.
things. I think he does a great, great job.
For sure. Yeah. Again, that initial tap dancing one when they're first at Rainbow Valley, I thought that was fantastic.
Mm.
All right, The Rain People, 1969, starring Shirley Knight, James Caan, Robert Duvall. So in this film, he was once again partnering with the studio, obviously less ambitious than Finian's Rainbow. It was a film that he wrote and directed, much smaller budget. What did you think of this one?
I think it had a lot of promise. I think it was a good stepping stone for Francis Ford Coppola. I think it has a lot of strong points to it, but overall, I was left a little lackluster by it. I was a little disappointed. There were parts where I could feel myself ramping up to becoming more interested, and then it would just sort of teeter off into disinterest again. I think James Caan is the part in this movie that shines for me personally. I think he gives a great performance. I think his character is written really, really well, and I
Mm-hmm.
wish he had had more attention in the film. Like, I wish it had been a little bit longer with more scenes for him, and I don't know. I wish I felt more sympathetic towards Shirley Knight's character. I just don't understand her enough to fully like support her through this journey that she's going on. And I understand maybe me. I mean, maybe I'm just not one for the girls. Maybe it's because I'm not a woman. I don't know what motherhood's like. I don't know the stresses of that or of pregnancy. I don't understand. Perhaps it is more poignant than I realize, but it feels more like a man's take on what would be stressful about motherhood. Like,
Mm.
how are you? Obviously, she's not running away from her problem because the whole idea is that she's now taking care of James Caan, who is a sort of surrogate for what a child would be in her life that she has
Yeah,
to look after. And obviously, she's not running away from her problem because she's not getting an abortion. She is still very much pregnant throughout the film and is going to give birth as long as the story continues. You know, but she just keeps putting herself into worse and worse situations as the movie goes on, and so I just become less and less sympathetic towards her because I just don't really understand. They touch on it like a little bit of why she's doing what she's doing, about why she left, but I guess I'm just not fully there to really be on board with her,
Right.
if that makes
Yeah,
sense.
I can see the like unsympathetic aspects, like the unlikability of her, which I very much appreciate that that was included in the film because I think they're all. I mean, James Caan's character is obviously a different sort of thing, a different beast there, but very unlikable characters like throughout this entire film, and
Mm.
pretty complexly so. I thought so. I think at least her initial departure from her home makes sense, in that there's about to be this huge life change with a baby coming, and she's
Yeah, I
clearly
think her
still not like.
leaving
Go
is
ahead.
something that I can follow. I think I can follow that part. Like I'm not confused. She leaves, she's on her own. I'm like, I get it. I get why she left. I get why she's scared. She's doing her
Yeah,
own thing. And then she picks up James Caan originally, like we don't really know why, I think, but then she alludes to it later on that she did it to like actually pick him up to like take him to bed.
yeah,
And I'm confused. Like that's the jump in logic that she's like looking for an affair. I'm not really
hmm
understanding that jump. Like leaving, understand. Going and trying to be on your own because you feel like you have put yourself in a position to be a wife when you don't think you are someone who can be a wife or a mother. Like I understand that fear and that desire to jump out, but I guess her trying to have an affair is like a byproduct of that, of trying to be more independent and more free willing. But she just seems so deliberate about all her choices to get to that point that it feels backhanded to her character, as opposed to like if she had been in a situation where she could have sex and it just like was something that happened. I feel it would be
right,
more in line with her being more free willing and independent. It just feels like a lot of the movies, her trying to get to a point where she could have sex with a person and then like realizing that James Caan is mentally disabled because of the accident he was in, and realizing she can't actually have sex with him, and then trying to ditch him so that she can be free willing and not being able to do it, and then eventually meeting Robert Duvall and being like, oh, he's captivating, I can have sex with him, and doing what she can to have sex with him. It's just like what is her drive for like the last 2/3 of this movie, the second 2/3 of this movie? The first
I
third,
think.
I get it. She's trying to be freewheeling. She's trying to leave that life behind, at least temporarily, to just experience that, to see who she really is, to feel that feeling of not forcing yourself to be a mother or a wife when you don't think you can be, and just trying to learn more about yourself. But obviously, she's like a very confused person. It's obviously an identity problem that she's having. I don't
Yeah.
understand. I don't know, because she's simultaneously like someone who is responsible and obviously does want to care for James Caan and whatnot. But at the same time, she has moments of like very, very strong weakness that come out of nowhere almost, where she's yelling at him or pushing him away. And obviously, this whole thing is just a very strong metaphor for motherhood and like what it is, and that feeling, that the
hmm
like strangling feeling of what it is to be a parent, specifically a mother who's supposed to be there for the child, to raise the child, and what that sort of old school. I guess I'm just explaining the movie to myself, but
You are, and I don't know what the last like thing you need is to make it click, because you're like there. I feel like you understand it perfectly well.
I just don't want to hate her,
Um,
and I hate her. I
well,
hate her as a
again,
character.
that's
I
why
don't
I
want
think
to.
it's.
I want to understand why she does like a lot of what she does in the last third of the movie. Because
Right.
getting that point, I see a woman who gets frustrated at things and blows up and whatnot, but never goes so far that she can't come back from it. And in the
Mhm.
last third of the movie, she pushes herself to that limit of going far enough. I guess I'm just convincing myself that it's a good movie, but yeah, I mean
Keep
it's
going,
written
keep
well.
going. You're getting close. Again,
She,
I think the fact that they do allow you to like really question her and dislike her at times, because she does, like, I think 3 different times tries to abandon him, and
yeah,
sometimes she does return of
she's
her own
just so
volition. Other
damn
times
mean to
she's
him.
forced into it. Yeah, she is, but you can
James Caan
tell like
gets
she
just
does
done
care.
so dirty in this movie. He's just such a
Oh, for
sweet
sure.
man.
The poor guy. Yeah. By the
God.
way, yeah, we're deep in spoiler stuff, so if you haven't already
He tries to free
watched
the
it,
ducks, man. He tries to free the
yeah,
ducks.
he's always
He
being
doesn't know what
taken
to do with his
advantage of.
money. I don't know, it just
Yeah,
feels like shit. It just feels like shit to watch this movie where she's the main character and she gets all this attention for doing these things that like make her a bad person, that make me dislike her as a human being. And James Caan is the side character who is not given as much attention and does not have as much change as character because he already is who he is. And all he does is care and all he does is be good, and he just gets walked all over and destroyed by the end of it.
yeah, it's very unfortunate. Again, the one thing, the ending, I don't really know what we're meant to take away from that.
Yeah,
That's
why does
obviously
he
a
have to
very dramatic
die?
finish to everything, but yeah, like
I
him
really like the ending
getting
when
shot
it was the
is a
daughter and
much.
she walked out and she ran into James Caan and they were just like looking in people's windows, like talking, like they were two kids. I really liked
Hmm.
that part of the ending. And then they went, why does she have to shoot him? Why does
Yeah,
the
the kid
daughter shoot
shooting
him?
him was tough.
Well, where does it leave
But
us now? Now Shirley Knight's going to jail for something, maybe?
she's
All,
not going to
all
jail. Shirley Knight, what'd she do?
I don't know, like
Unless he like
she's caught
frames
up
them. But I mean, they had all
like
the bystanders there.
she's caught up in like a whole thing now. Her world has just gotten significantly more complicated. Everything's all
Hmm.
fucked up. God.
See, but it leaves you with that impact. It clearly evokes some emotion from you. So I think it's effective on that front.
Yeah, it does
You care for
work.
him. You want the best from her to like finally just be nice to him, like care for him, like learn that lesson. But again, she's pushing that away. She's trying to push away that like urge to care and be there for other people, trying to grasp at the last semblance of what she thinks independence is. Again, I think that's what it was of her like trying to get those affairs. Is like this is what I should be if I'm a going to be like a young independent woman. If I am a mother, that'll be the opposite of that. I think that's where her head is at. That's why she clearly has that like identity thing where she'll say she or her before they're like who? Oh, me. Right? She's like trying to distance those two competing ideas of what she is and what she wants to be. So I think that makes sense um, because to an extent it like is contradictory and doesn't make sense. And people are like that sometimes. People are silly, make self-destructive choices that any outside observer could be like, "Hey, this is not the best for you," and you keep falling into these same patterns. But I think again, it's just like realistic. So I liked that complexity that was given to her, even though it meant there were times where I was like, "Yeah, like what are you doing? Stop being mean, or stop like being there with Robert Duvall's character as he's just being an absolute jerk to his daughter." Like that was insane. Um, but again, like really well done from an acting standpoint, directing standpoint. Having just that quick shot of her getting slapped by her father when she like comes out there, crazy stuff, crazy to witness. But I love that there was complexity and fearlessness to make us dislike the characters, or at least challenge how much sympathy we could have for them. So I thought that was great. I also thought from the like directing standpoint, huge leap forward from like Dementia 13, at least as far as
Yeah,
our
significant.
uh, our attachment and like the way he's able to guide the perspective character, like who we are following. And
Hmm.
we never really end up seeing, I guess, aside from that initial shot when she wakes up and gets out of bed, we never see Vinny, the husband.
He's in
Um,
flashbacks.
yeah, that's true. But whenever we are focusing on like the phone calls,
It's on
again,
her.
especially
Like
that
there's no
initial
cross
one,
cutting.
it's just on her. Yeah, and that very first one again was I think like a one take basically. Once they cut in from the
There's a
wide,
lot of
was
long
just
one
on
takes in this
her
movie.
a lot. The other one was when she invites him into the room, invites Killer into the room, and then it's you have that mirror, you have the
The mirror,
sliver
yeah,
that's
that
not
was
covered by the
great.
mirror, and that's like a 5 minute sequence of that initial part of them doing the whole Simon Says bit. I thought that was just fantastic,
I
like the
really like the
way
shot at
he was
the
able to
end.
compose all the blocking there.
Yeah, in terms of shots, I really love the shot at the end when Robert Duvall turns off the lights and it's just like the sliver of the side of her face and
Beautiful,
everything else is pitch
beautiful.
black. It's fantastic. And she's
It was
delivering the
amazing.
dialogue. Oh, it's fantastic.
Yeah, that contrast. Love it. When he
Like, why
said,
does
"All right, I'll
James
turn on
Caan
the
have to
flashlight," I was like,
die?
"Stop." I know it's
Why does
sad.
he gotta
It's sad.
die? He doesn't
He
have
was
to
pure.
die.
He was too pure for this world. Tragic. The 80s
Is it?
tragic.
God, I just. What is it saying? What does it say about mothers? What does it say about people? What
I
is the
don't know. I mean, you
purpose?
see her like desperation at the end there as she's trying to like cradle him and saying, "Oh, we can go back to like my home and we can all be a family and we can make it work." So again, I don't know why he had to die necessarily for that to happen, but I
Is it
guess
a
it's just like
direct
a realization
metaphor?
of
Like,
like
obviously, it's a metaphor
I
for the
should have been
child
there. I
she's
should have
bearing,
been
but is
there.
it a direct metaphor for? Is it like an anti-abortion thing? Is that what it is?
Uh, no, I didn't really because that didn't really continue to be a thing. It wasn't like she was deciding to get an abortion by the end of it. She had already said, I think halfway through, she's like, "Oh, like I'm not considering that anymore," or just
Yeah.
didn't. It wasn't a topic anymore. So I don't think it was that. But I do think, I mean, yeah, clearly at the end, it was like, oh, her running so much from this clear desire that she had to like care for him, for James Caan's character, uh,
It's like her
just wasn't
accepting her
right. Like it
motherhood,
wasn't
I
right to
guess.
him and it wasn't right to her. Which, I mean, yeah, could be suggesting as a mother, like, oh, just accept your responsibility to start caring for this other human being in your life.
Mhm.
But yeah, I think it can be reduced, I think, to that, and there could be a bad faith sort of takeaway from it. I think this is a little bit more complicated and like
Yeah.
forgiving to Shirley Knight's situation than that. So again, I really enjoyed it. Again, from a directorial standpoint, I thought this was a great showcase. I think a lot of what we're going to see. I mean, we're not going to talk about the Godfather films specifically, but a lot of what we see in those films, I think you could see the seeds of them here. I'm curious about the conversation because again, I haven't seen that. Obviously,
You've never seen the
Apocalypse Now
conversation?
is a huge epic, so a much more grand scale. I feel like the conversation will be more in line with what we see here with the Rain People. Um,
Yeah,
so yeah, I
especially
thought this
since the
was a great
conversation is
showcase.
another one that's him specifically writing it directly for the screen,
Yeah,
like the Rain People. I think you're gonna like it a lot. The conversation is great.
I'm hoping so. I'm excited for it. But all right, how many CTE Hitchhikers out of 5?
I was gonna say 3.5, but I think I talked myself to a 4, so I'm just gonna give it a 4.
Wow,
I
that's
talked
incredible.
so much about it that I ended up unpacking what I thought it meant, and then I went, fine, yeah, I guess it's a 4. I guess it's pretty good. God damn it,
Again, you were wrestling with it for sure, but I'm glad
I was getting
you
there.
were able to get there.
I was getting there.
Um, I am giving it a 4 as well. Yeah, actually, I was really solid. Like, not necessarily perfect. There were some things I wish we could have dug into more
Why's he
of.
gotta
Like we
die?
said, James Caan's character. Again, the death that, that I was just more, yeah, I was more like why rather than like fully emotionally affected by it. But
I was
um,
affected by it. He's just it
yeah,
was a greatly written character and a greatly performed character, and he had all of my sympathy in the movie because none of the
mhm,
other characters had any of it. They were all doing things that I thought were bad or despicable or backstabbing or rude or cruel, and he was
yeah,
the only character that was just like a beaming ray of positivity, of purity. Why couldn't he just? God, he was just so good. He was better than the rest.
tragique.
Why they gotta
But
get
all
rid of
right,
the best?
that's our discussion on the first 3 films. Again, 3 of the 4 first films that Coppola had done. But that wraps up the rise of Coppola before his just insane run in the 70s.
Indeed. That's all the time we have. If you'd like to give your thoughts on the show, you can email us at theboxofficeshowpod@gmail.com.
Our main title theme for the show is Sundown by Joseph McDade.
If you like the show, please give us 5 stars on whatever podcast app you're listening to, and be sure to tune in next week where we dig into more Francis Ford Coppola. We're doing this all month long. Have a great rest of your day.